Why is it when we bring up the brutal ways in which Europeans colonized, enslaved, and genocided indigenous people, your answer is, but what about the Aztecs who sacrificed their own people? I'm also assuming that you watched the Mel Gibson movie Apocalypto one too many times and assume that that's an accurate depiction of history. It wasn't just the Mexica or the Aztecs that participated in the ritual of human offerings. This was common throughout Mesoamerican culture, and Mesoamerica being modern day Mexico and Central America. As always, that history has been completely whitewashed and Eurocentricized in order to justify the brutalization of the Spaniards and the 90% of the people that they genocided within Mesoamerica, along with the 90% of the people that they genocided in the Caribbean and South America and the Southwest United States. They love to exaggerate their claims. One of their claims was that the Aztecs sacrificed 40,000 people in one day, which is mathematically impossible. They also made claims that the Aztecs, or the Mexica, sacrificed 20,000 people a year, in which there is no archaeological evidence to support that. They also made the claim that they saw over 130,000 skulls at what is now called the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, or modern-day Mexico City. The most skulls that ever been found at the Templo Mayor was 600, proving that this wasn't a common practice. The most common human offering that occurred in Mesoamerican culture was bloodletting, also animal offerings. Mesoamerican people did not believe in gods as many people have been led to believe. And even the term Teoc has been loosely translated in Spanish and English to mean God. And that's because Europeans couldn't wrap their simple, feeble minds around the fact that not everybody actually believed in deities or gods. See, Mesoamerican spirituality was centered around nature. We didn't have a fear of death. Death was part of the life cycle. We also didn't mourn death in the way people mourn death today. Death was celebrated because it was under the belief system that when we gave our bodies back to the earth, it nourished and fed the earth in order for the earth to then provide food back to us. Part of the life cycle. So we honored our ancestors. We honored the earth itself. We honored the universe as a whole. In order to explain these spiritual and scientific concepts, because spirituality and science went hand in hand, we created oral histories and art depicting what that would look like to the human eye, which was misconstrued and mistranslated to mean those were our gods. The most common form of human offering was through bloodletting, which means you gave back to the earth some of your blood to nourish it. And the majority of human offerings was through people who volunteered to give their bodies to the earth to nourish it. It was considered an honor because, again, we didn't fear death. We honored it. Now, there were some people who it was not voluntary, and those people were typically people who committed horrible, horrific crimes, similar to what we would say the death penalty is used for today. But even in times of battle or ritual warfare, the goal was always to capture, not kill. And it was with the understanding that if you were captured, you would be given as an offering. And only warriors fought warriors. They didn't go after children, women, non-combatants, or elderly, unlike what the Europeans did. See, when the Europeans showed up here, not only did they fight the warriors, but they literally massacred children, women, and elderly, and ambushed them while they were doing ceremonies or gathering food, because they actually couldn't win a one-to-one war with our actual warriors. They used psychological, manipulative tactics in order to turn people against each other. And because of their brutal ways, which is something indigenous people had never encountered before, that is when they created the fear of death. Because the way Europeans killed was not in the form of giving back to the earth and nourishing the earth. It was just to kill. Before you try to claim how brutal we were over here, why don't you take a look back at European history as a whole? Because as you sit here and throw stones, you forget you live in a glass house. Because why don't we talk about the millions of women you guys burned at the stake because you believed they were witches? Or how you tied people's limbs to poles and then tied them to a cart pulled by horses, had the horses take off running to pull those limbs from their bodies. Or how you would tie stones or boulders to people and then drop them in the middle of a body of water and watch them die. With our human offerings, there was ceremony involved. And human offerings would be given things like peyote or other hallucinogenics to make sure that they would go to sleep, not feel any pain, and allow for their spirit to transition into the spiritual realm much easier. Think of it like going into surgery where the doctor gives you anesthesia and you actually never feel them cutting your body open or feeling any pain while you're under. See, we did things humanely. We didn't torture. So no matter how hard you want to try to justify the brutality of your European ancestors, history says otherwise. And there will never be a day where your European ancestors will ever be considered the same as indigenous people. Have a day.